meeting, and we have a kind of an interesting situation. We had to reschedule the Board of Adjustment meeting, so today is a special session, but our first order of business is to consider the approval of minutes from the March 9, 2023 minutes and or meeting, and I just had one friendly amendment I'd like to note before we continue too much, and that was in the call to order. I wanted to add the phrase, due to a late arrival, Chairman Kazi called the meeting to order at 4:10, so at least that recognizes that we would have started at 4, but we had to wait. And that way it doesn't expose necessarily who we were waiting for. So anyway, I'm going to add that as a friendly amendment to the meetings. So do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I'd make the motion to approve the minutes as amended to add that line to call to order.
Do I hear a second?
Second it.
All right, thank you so much. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. And Tina, I'll go ahead and sign this just right now, just to. Okay, if you pass this down for me, Dee, appreciate that. Also, just to recognize that one of our members has taken a paid position with the city of Stephenville, and that's Daryl Brown, and he is the former vice chair of the board. And so we will take a couple of seconds now just to acknowledge his contribution to the board and note for the record our appreciation for his service and wish him well. But what that leaves for us is the business of electing a vice chair, which we will do at our next regular session. So, all right, so now let's open the public hearing. Steve, would you do us the service of presenting the first case, which is V 2023-006.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. Before I begin, if you don't mind, I'd like to just recognize that we have our new councilman, Miss Maddie Smith, in the audience.
Hey, Maddie.
And so I appreciate you being here tonight, or this afternoon. Case number V 2023-006. Applicant is Ryan Hill, representing Shield Engineering Group, PLLC. He is requesting a variance from section 154-05-6D3 relating to front setback requirements for 2290 West Charlton. This is parcel R30357. It's block 139, lot 16 of City Edition of the City of Stephenville, Urath County, Texas. So, Mr. Hill, there's actually two parcels that he's looking at. I believe the acquisition is pending the outcome of these hearings. He has two parcels, one faces Dale, one faces Tarleton. And this project will be for a multifamily building, which is reflected in your packet. He's asking for a 4-foot setback on the 25-foot setback requirement for the frontage along Tarleton Street. He is, through the review process, we did ask for additional right-of-way dedication, so he's given the additional right-of-way, but he's asking that the setback be adjusted so he can fit this building on the parcel with the footprint that he's presenting. What we have discussed, and Mr. Hill and Mr. Barnes are both here this afternoon to present their case or answer any questions. But if you look in your packet, I believe it's on page 5 or 6, we have an illustration of the footprint. Thank you, ma'am. She has it pulled up for us.
Yes.
And there's a line illustrated on the plat, or on this site plan. What I want to point out, and I believe they can expand on this if you have any questions, is they have shown us where their building line will be on that parcel if the variance is granted. And what you'll note on adjacent properties that there are structures that exceed past that building line where his building will stop. So there are other structures in the area that are closer to that right-of-way than what his building will be if approved. And so there's an illustration that I've took from our GIS mapping, And if we look at the corner property at Dell and Tarleton, there's a building there with a 15-foot setback. One in the area is only 12 foot from the street. The one to the east of him is 20 foot from the property line. And so what I wanted to do there is show you that this is not a request that would really not fit well with what's already in the area. And if you're familiar with Tarleton Street, this particular stretch of Tarleton, there was a recent plan development approved, Fireside Living, which is a student housing type facility. Can't recall the number of units they have there, but it's a well-done PD. You have another property to the east that is multifamily townhome type construction. So the area is conducive for what they're proposing as far as multifamily or student housing living. One last thing I want to point out, and they point this out in their site plan as well, they are overparked. So they are looking at if this is approved, they will, parking is a big concern we have, especially when student housing is brought into the picture. But they meet and exceed those requirements for parking for this particular structure, if so approved. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
This city has no problems with this request, it sounds like.
No objections.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, thank you, Mr. Hill and Barnes, for being here, and if you'd like, you can introduce yourself, and if you want to speak to the proposal.
Sure. Yeah, please. I didn't know if y'all had Mr. Hi, I'm Craig
We
Barnes.
do, but it's about that big.
Oh, this is,
So please introduce yourself and then.
yeah, Chairman and members of the board, my name is Craig Barnes. Pleased to be here and thank you for listening to us. Ryan and I both are owners of Shield Engineering Group, and we are also in the process of acquiring these two tracks. We're just talking about the one track on Dale right now, and we have the, I guess, case number 2 or 1 and 2. Yes, the setback that we went in to look at, we saw that it was consistent with the face of the building on either side neighboring us. Let me back up just a minute. A little bit more about us while we're even here. Shield Engineering Group also does, we're excited about student housing in Tarleton, especially because y'all just recently got an ABET accredited civil engineering program, so we come out here to recruit. So it's a good opportunity for us to be here. And how we know about Stephenville even in the first place is Ryan married a PAC. And so Lisa Hill is, Lisa Pack Hill is his bride, and she has Texas Twisters, and I'm sure y'all have been by that before. So anyway, so that's how we're familiar. We're not just kind of cruising from out of town to come out here and take a look at it. So anyway, when we were looking at this site plan, and there was, and he had an opportunity to look at this, he asked me if we were interested in trying to buy this and put some multifamily, actually student housing on here, because it's a great need. So that's how we came. We came to visit with Steve and the rest of the fire department and planning, and they said, look, guys, with the original plan we had, this is not it. And they go, this is not going to fly. No way I can do this. So we went back to the drawing board, cleaned everything up, and they said, well, we can get most of what you asked for. We're going to take the building instead of 2 buildings, took it to 3 stories and stay underneath the threshold. But on that one tract, we had the tract that's adjacent, that's on Tarleton is gave us the that we're talking about right now, gave us the green light to come before you guys to do the Board of Adjustments. We also have already rezoned it to be R3. So this tract's R3 and the other tract is R3. The tract on Dale, they didn't want us to mess with the Board of Adjustments, so we got all of our variances that we're requesting just on the one on Tarleton. So I didn't have an extra one, so I'm doing this off memory from reading the pictures. So in the setback, we were going to do all the same stuff in the front. We're putting the sidewalk in. I think there's an ability for us to get all that stuff in where it doesn't look weird or affect either side. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, with that, I think for this first one on the setbacks, that's all I have on that. Unless I got to answer any questions y'all might have.
The second parcel that y'all are discussing abuts this one, I would call it on the back side of the property that faces Tarleton that we're discussing currently, correct?
Correct.
But it would take both of the parcels to accommodate the parking, and the construction that you anticipate doing in that area.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. And I'll ask maybe a question that's not a fair question, but have you purchased these properties, or are they under contract?
They're under contract. We're in the due diligence phase. Remind me the dates when we're supposed to.
July, some mid-July will close.
Okay.
We close in mid-July.
Okay. Is that sale contingent on whether it passes this or not?
It has, yes.
Okay. Well, all of those are relevant, in my mind, they're relevant questions because we're talking about dollars, a lot of dollars, and I recognize that. And, that's kind of putting all the cards on the table, so to speak, but I appreciate that.
Sure, sure. I tried not to keep it to all about the dollars, but at the end of the day, sometimes it gets down to the dollars. We do feel like the project will be more successful and will look more cohesive with these variance requests.
Okay. Have y'all done properties or developments like this in other locations,
Yes, sir.
in Stephenville or other cities?
Other cities.
Okay.
So my wife and I invest in Steve, but we have 5 or 6 houses here, so we built some duplexes, and we've done some stuff in Steveville over the last probably 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
I don't know if that relates to this,
Well, and of course, if you married a
You
pack,
understand.
if you married a pack, you're related to half the county.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and we don't mind new people coming in, but people with a proven track record, we're a lot more comfortable with them because we've seen what they can and what they will do.
Yes, sir.
And compliance is always an issue for this board or anybody else. We want somebody that will come in and comply and be good citizens after they're here, but we want them to be good citizens while they're in the construction phase also.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions for Mr. Hill or Barnes? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Do we have anyone from the community who wants to speak to this request? Okay, well, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing on this case and ask for a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion. I motion that we approve case number V2023-006.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I have a quandary. This request on its own is simple enough, and I think it's pretty much in compliance with surrounding properties.
Mhm.
The density issue is the one that I'm not as comfortable with. If we approve this one, that doesn't mean that the other one's necessarily approved.
Exactly.
So we've got to look at that one, but this one fits according to staff and according to what I was able to see driving through
Yes.
both sides. It seems to fit the surrounding area okay. If the density is not approved, then he's going to have to back up, and this may be a moot point because he may not need the variance if he reduces the footprint of that building to comply with the density issue.
Plus, there's another request that's, these kind of work in tandem, don't they? I mean, both of the requests, so unfortunately, we have to deal with them as they come and, like just one after the other here, which we will. But I hear your point. Any other questions or discussion? JJ? No? All right, well, having no further discussion, all in favor of this motion to approve the variance, because we only have two options. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign? I think, I didn't hear you say aye, but I think we have five. I saw your hand, so I think it's unanimous. So this this motion is approved, and so case number B 2023-006 is granted. All right.
All right,
Steve?
Mr. Chairman, the next case is B 2023-007. It's the same property, same applicant. The only difference here is that the section of variance that we're looking at is 154-56D1. That is relating to the density of the number of dwelling units per acre. Generally, it's 24 units per acre. They are asking for a slight increase in density, and if you look at the page with their site plan, they've done the calculations for us. Let me see if I can scroll down to the correct page. Basically, they're looking for an increase in the density. Now, I want to make a point here. This is 0.6 acres roughly that we're dealing with. So when you do the calculation on that, it comes out to roughly, I believe, 16 units. It's, here we have, it's 24 units per acre normally. They have 6.76 acres, which would mean the maximum units would be 16.2 units for this particular site. They are asking for 18 units, which is 1.8 units above the density that would be allowed by the zoning ordinance. Again, they have provided more parking spaces to allow for student housing. And your question is always, does the staff support it? I'm going to say that I'm indifferent. I'm not necessarily opposed to it. We are asking for an increased density. What they have done, though, the term footprint was utilized earlier. They have made the footprint where the variance that you just approved will allow the building to fit on this property. They'll simply go up 3 stories instead of 2, reducing the footprint in the direction towards Dell, that the original building would have originally came towards Dell. Now it's just one linear footprint from Tarleton back. So I think it's going to be pretty, I don't know that it's a negligible increase in density. And I think the plan they have now is less invasive, if you want to use that term, to the neighborhood than it would have been had they kept it at 2 stories. They would have had a bigger footprint. So I think now, when you look at the surrounding buildings in the area, the fact that Fireside is a 3-story complex, I don't know that this really causes any impact to the neighborhood other than maybe 1 additional to 2 additional vehicles at the property. So I'd like to just, that's staff's opinion on this, and I'd be glad to answer any questions. And again, we have Mr. Hill and Mr. Barnes here to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gillen. And
Does the proposed construction stay under the height requirements that we have established?
They will be, as far as the actual building permit and the review of those units, we have not seen that to that degree yet, but they will be required to meet 35-foot maximum height. The only way they cannot do that is to come back for another variance request.
Okay.
that was exactly my question was how will the skyline be affected in a sense, the more pragmatic.
And if I may, staff has actually had that conversation with Mr. Hill and Mr. Barnes, and they are aware of the 35-foot height limitation.
All right. Very good. If you'd like to.
Do I need to reintroduce myself again? Is it?
No, that's fine,
Okay.
but how about we just entertain questions? and listen?
That'd be great. We had actually had looked at it, talked about it, and our thinking all along was if this was a huge complex that was asking for that density increase, there would be a whole traffic study required and a real big mess. Being that we do this for a living, this is a great access, I believe. On the corner, we're able to have 2 points of access off to 2 streets, so I don't feel like there's going to be a traffic issue. And it's really like just 1.8 more units, and it kind of looks lopsided if you kind of lop one off and you have 3 stories and then 2-story, and it's just I think it'll look better and it'll be more cohesive. But I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Well, of course, my first question is, and it kind of goes back to your first request, if you reduce the footprint of the building, you can still maintain 3 stories, but reduce the footprint, but that's gonna cut the square footage down. Is that not an economically viable project at that time if you reduce that footprint that much?
Well, it definitely affects the numbers a lot. So then we have to go back and scratch our heads and decide if we, the one thing about these 2 tracks, the one at the front that we're talking about already has a building on it that would be beneficial to have something, could be torn down and put something else in its place. And so with all those costs and all the things that go along with it, it makes it more economically viable to have the 18 units. I mean, I'm not trying to stick to just money, but that makes the pencil in the deal a lot easier.
And I'm not an engineer or an architect, either one, and I don't know if you could get the same number of units with a different type of design. And as I'm not either one of those, I'm not really qualified to speak on that, but have you looked at other options?
I can take that one. So I'm working with Fred Parker. He's doing the architectural for us in the DJ. We've looked at probably 3 or 4 different product types, unit types. These units are actually on the lower end of the size we would want in these, but they're still viable. And with that 35 feet, it's been tough to get 3 stories in anyway. You got 10-foot decks and you got your gables on top of that. It's really hard to get 35 feet. So we don't think there's any other options to get 18 units in that footprint.
Okay. Well, of course, in my mind, if you had a little larger unit, you could have a little higher opportunity for rent revenue, even though you might have fewer units, the dollars might work out, but I'm not in that business. I'm just trying to ask questions and make sure.
They're all great questions, and that's why we did half and half, 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom, because you never know what the market's really gonna want.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just got a message from a viewing member of the public. They're asking that he had approached the microphone because they can't hear his testimony.
Right. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Yes, sir. So, yeah, since that's the case, if you'd introduce yourself and then.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Hill, Shield Engineering Group, and yeah, so we do have a mix of 2 and 1 bedroom units to try to keep the doors open for different end uses, based on size. And like I said, these things are already about as small as we really want them to be for a 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom. We don't want to have tiny units that people don't want to rent. You kind of have to do a market analysis on these things and see what the other buildings in town are doing and kind of follow suit, and that's what we've done.
Okay.
Very good. Thanks, Mr. Hill and Barnes. Any other questions from the board? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if there are no members from the community who want to speak for or against this, I don't see any. All right, so we'll close the public hearing on this case number V 2023-007. Do I hear a motion from the board?
I'd like to motion that we approve case number V 2023-007.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, JJ. All right, any discussion?
Same discussion as
Same
last time, Mr. Chair. The first variance, I think, fits the neighborhood and I think is agreeable. Obviously, the board agreed. This one, to me, when you start talking about density, and I know we do traffic studies and I know we do other things, but both of those streets have a significant amount of traffic on them already. If you've tried to get up and down Tarleton or up and down Dale at 8 o'clock or 5 o'clock, it's hard. And the traffic light at Dale, I've seen traffic backed up past that intersection at Tarleton before when school lets out. And I know that school doesn't run in the summer, but when the Tarleton students are in, public school's gonna be in too. That's why I struggle when we add more the possibility of having more traffic there because of the extra vehicles that are gonna be there. I think if it stays within the footprint and stays within the design of the density requirements, I think that helps mitigate that some. That's my opinion.
I think the question about extra, the extra units being in a 3-story as opposed to 2-story, I think that kind of mitigates the concern, but also in terms of parking spaces, if I understood correctly, it's not adding that many more cars or traffic to, right, that was my understanding, so, it sounds like those, I understand your concern, but I don't think that it's gonna affect too deeply us if we were to approve this. Any other thoughts or comments? Dean, do you have any? No, sir. JJ?
No more comments.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and vote on this motion. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. That way I can see. All opposed, same sign?
No,
Okay, so 3-2, this motion is not passed, so this is not approved. So case number V2023-007, not approved, Mr. Keller.
Thanks, gentlemen.
All right, Mr. Killen, if you would introduce case number, the fourth on the public hearing docket.
Yes, sir. Case number V 2023-008. Applicant is Mr. Larry Stone, representing Julia Stone, requesting a variance from 154-56D. This is relating to the corner lot setback requirements for property located at 1101 McCart. It's parcel 28824 of the Butler Addition, Block 6, Lot 3 of the City of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. Mr. Stone is requesting a variance to allow the construction of a single-family home. The reduced setback will enable the construction of the improvements as illustrated in the site plan. This will reduce a 25-foot corner lot setback by 10 feet, resulting in a 15-foot setback. In your packet, I have an aerial of our GIS mapping system. And what I've done is looked at the adjacent properties within a 200-foot radius. And we have properties there that range in setbacks from 12 foot to 21 foot. Just want to make that point for your consideration. And with that, Mr. Chairman, we do have Mr. Stone here. I might remind you that Mr. Stone had this on the agenda for the meeting that we were unable to hold. So, Mr. Stone, thank you for your patience in working with us as we call this special call meeting. Yes, sir. If you don't mind me sharing this, I believe Mr. Stone has some issues relating to the bank and getting started on the construction. So we do appreciate you agreeing to the specially called meeting because time is of essence for that.
Sure.
And with that, sir, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, and I would, again, I always like to ask, the city has no objections to this approval?
No objections, sir.
Mr. Stone, if you do us a favor and introduce yourself at the microphone there so that the community can hear what's going on here, and then if you want to speak to your request, we appreciate it.
Yes, sir. My name's Larry Stone. I am a general contractor. I own Tailor Made Custom Homes. I have 3 children that attend college here in Stephenville, which has brought to attention the housing situation here and the difficulties. I had 1 that's been in the dorm and 2 that are in the Edge at Washington. We've paid many tickets for parking, had cars towed, and so it's kind of made me decide maybe the best thing we could do is purchase a piece of property and build a home. And my oldest daughter has worked at Sonic since she's been here, saved up her money, was able to purchase the property herself, so I'm proud of her for that. And she is wanting to keep this property and keep it as a as a rental moving forward. So very proud parent moment.
Very good. The property as she has purchased it, the house is already on it, or you're gonna build? I mean,
No, sir, it's an empty lot. Yes,
Just making
it's 53 foot. So in its current scenario, with the 5-foot side setback on the inside and a 25 on the corner, it only leaves you a 23-foot footprint to be able to build on, which is pretty challenging, short of putting a 1-bedroom on, I believe. And what we're proposing is to do a 2-bedroom.
Sure.
That your intention is to build a single-family residence, right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And your drive will be on Walnut, or?
It'll be on Walnut, yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
instead of on McCart.
Correct.
Okay, Walnut is an exceptionally narrow right-of-way.
Right.
And I didn't know, but there are other houses there, but I couldn't, I struggle with drawings sometimes, and when,
Sure.
you know, it's not your fault, but when we reproduce it, it's very hard to tell.
Correct, yeah.
But the drive, it doesn't appear to have a garage.
It does not have a garage, and that's something that I would discuss, and I don't know about as far as doing like a carport, but it would set within the build line of what the house would be. It would just set behind the house and still stay within the setbacks.
Okay,
Just doing a carport back there.
okay.
So we won't have to entertain another request for
No,
variance
sir.
for the
No,
carport?
no, sir.
In the fu- That's a good idea, to plan ahead, yeah. Any other questions for Mr. Stone? All right. Well, thank you very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. And if, I don't see anyone else from the community who may be speaking for or against this request, so I'll close the public hearing. Do I hear a motion regarding case number V2023-008?
May I ask Mr. Killen a question prior to that?
Sure.
Okay. The current land use, if I'm looking at this, is R3, and future land use calls it for R1, single family, which is what his proposal is. The majority of the occupied lots in this area are R1, with the exception of the Summer Sky facility across the street, and it appears to be vacant. But I know it may predate the zoning. Do you know offhand?
That I do not know, sir.
Okay.
With the R3 zoning, the lot dimensions reduced for R1, if that's relevant to your question.
Yes, sir.
So the R1 can be, single-family residence can be built in R3 zoning, as I know you're very well aware of, but just for the viewing public, that is a permitted use in R3 zoning, so.
Okay, so it can be built and be in compliance, even though the current zoning is multifamily.
That is correct.
But the future land use map says that the area will predominantly be R1.
And so in that scenario, and understand, and know you're aware, you were on council when we approved the funding for the comprehensive plan. So we're looking at those with the consultant now, as far as what our future land use designation will be. So I can't say that that will continue to be the case for this particular area. However, if it is, he will still be a permitted use, and that permitted use would be allowed as long as that zoning exists as a permitted use.
He'll be in compliance.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, did you ask for a motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay, sorry. Mr. Chair, I'd make the motion to approve the 2023-008 for the variance of the setback on the side as presented.
Thank you so much. Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Dean. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I didn't hear any. All right, so this case has been approved, and we appreciate you being here, and thank you again for your patience. Thank you very much. And, Mr. Killen, I think that was the last of it, so I make a motion that we adjourn.
So done.
All right.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you all
I
next time.
appreciate you.
Appreciate you again.
We're volunteers, and when we couldn't get a quorum, I appreciate you.